Hey everyone, ready for a deep dive into something pretty wild? We had a request to explore skull anatomy for barbers.
Yeah, who knew, right?
Seriously. At first I was like, huh. But the more I thought about it, the more it kind of makes sense.
It totally does. It's like before you even pick up the scissors, you got to understand the canvas, the shape of the head.
Okay, so break it down for me. How does knowing about like the parietal bone or whatever actually make someone a better barber? Is it just about avoiding like nicks and cuts?
Oh, it's way more than that. Every head is different, right? Some people have like crazy cheekbones, others have a super strong jawline.
Right, right.
And a barber who knows the skull, they can use that knowledge to create a haircut that actually works with someone's bone structure.
So it's like instead of just giving everyone the same trendy haircut, they're actually like sculpting a style that's unique to that person.
Exactly. Taking their features and like really accentuating them.
Okay, I'm kind of starting to see it. So let's dive into some specifics. What about that parietal bone you mentioned? That's like the top of the head, right?
Yep, top of the head. And it's crucial for creating a perfect fade.
Okay, I get that knowing where it is matters, but how does the bone itself impact the haircut?
Well, think about it. The parietal bone isn't perfectly flat. It's got this subtle curve to it.
Huh, I never really thought about that.
But a skilled barber, they understand how that curve affects how the hair falls, how the fade is going to look.
So they use the shape of the bone as a guide.
Precisely. They find the highest point of that curve and use that to create a seamless transition in hair length.
Whoa, wait. Are you telling me the shape of my skull could be the reason I've never been able to rock a fade?
It could definitely be a factor. Knowing those little nuances of the skull, it can make all the difference. And it's not just fades either. The parietal bone, it also helps determine the overall balance, the proportion of the whole haircut.
Wow, okay. My mind is officially blown, and I'm starting to think about all the potential hazards, like if you don't know where these bones are,
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's like if you're hiking in the wilderness and you don't have a map.
you're gonna get lost today.
Exactly. But if you know the landscape, you can navigate it with confidence.
All right, parietal bone checked. What other bones are we looking at?
Well, let's move on to the frontal bone.
The frontal bone.
That's
Oh,
your forehead. It also forms like the sockets of your eyes. It's super important for things like fringes or bangs.
oh man, those little wispy hairs that always seem to have a mind of their own.
Yep, those are the ones. See, the frontal bone, it basically dictates how your eyebrows sit, how your forehead curves.
So a barber who knows that can create a fringe that actually flatters your face.
Exactly. Instead of like fighting it, think about those people who can rock a super blunt fringe and others who just can't.
Right, right.
It could all be down to the shape of their frontal bone.
Okay, fascinating. Now I gotta ask, what about beards? Does the skull play into that too?
Of course it does. Let's talk about the mandible.
The what?
Mandible, that's your jawbone. Imagine someone with like a super strong jawline, like a superhero,
Yeah.
a full beard on them. They're gonna look even more chiseled. But someone with a smaller chin might want a beard that adds some length, balances things out,
Oh my gosh, that's totally true. I tried to grow a goatee once. Total disaster. Maybe it was my mandible telling me no way.
It's possible. The source we're looking at, it actually talks about how a good barber uses the shape of the mandible to create a beard that, like, highlights someone's best features.
So a beard can be like an optical illusion.
Absolutely. It's all about proportions. And the jawline isn't the only factor. We also got to consider the cheekbones.
Ah, cheekbones. I never would have thought about those being important for a haircut.
Oh, they're crucial. They give definition to the face. Someone with high cheekbones might want a haircut that, like, emphasizes those angles.
And someone with a rounder face might want something to add more structure.
Exactly. It's like the barber is an artist using the bones as their guide.
Okay, hold on. We gotta go back to those cheekbones for a minute. I'm still trying to picture how it works. Like, are we talking about shaving cheekbones now?
No, not shaving them. It's more about how the haircut frames the face.
Oh, okay.
Like someone with high cheekbones, they might look amazing with a side part that sweeps back, and emphasizing the bone structure.
Right.
But someone with less prominent cheekbones might want a style that adds more volume around the sides, gives the illusion of fullness.
So it's all about playing with those features.
Exactly. Using the bones as a roadmap to create a look that harmonizes with the whole face.
My mind is officially blown. This is making me rethink my entire hair journey. Like, instead of just looking at pictures in a magazine, I should be thinking about what works with May skull.
And that's the idea. It's about
Yeah.
working with the client, understanding their face, and creating a look that's not just trendy, but truly flattering.
Okay, I'm hooked. What else can you tell me about how these bones impact, like, everything?
Well, there's one bone I haven't mentioned yet. It's super important, especially when it comes to safety. The mastoid process.
The mastoid. Wait,
yeah.
my anatomy knowledge is a little rusty.
No worries. It's basically a bony protrusion right behind your ear.
Oh.
You can actually feel it if you press gently.
Yeah, I think I got it.
It's really sensitive, though, because it's right near the surface and it's actually connected to the middle ear.
So a nick there could be way worse than just a little cut.
Exactly. That's why barbers need to be super careful around that area. It's a perfect example of how knowing the skull helps avoid mistakes, keeps the client safe.
This is seriously eye-opening.
All right.
So we talked parietal bone, frontal bone, mandible, cheekbones. Are there any other major players in this skull anatomy for barbers game?
You know, there are a few more we could discuss, but I think we've hit the big ones for basic haircuts, beard styles. What's really cool is that this knowledge is, like, global. The source we're looking at, it's actually in Arabic.
Wow, right.
Yeah, it shows that this understanding of the skull, it transcends cultures.
It's like a universal language of beauty.
Totally. Makes you realize there's way more to a haircut than meets the eye.
Okay, I'm officially looking at myself in the mirror differently now. Already trying to figure out what kind of haircut would work best with MY skull shape.
That's what we like to hear.
All right, before we get too ahead of ourselves, I think we got to give our listener a moment to process all this.
Yeah, good idea.
There's a lot to take in. We'll be right back after a quick break. Okay, we're back, and I got to say my head is still spinning from all this skull talk. It's amazing how something so a mastoid process and how barbers really got to be careful around there.
Right, super sensitive area.
It made me realize there's probably a ton of other stuff about the skull that most people, like me, don't even think about.
For sure. What about the occipital bone?
The occipital. Remind me what that one is again.
That's the bone at the back of your head. It forms like the base of the skull.
Oh yeah, okay. Where you get that little bump if you bonk your head.
Exactly. And believe it or not, that bone, it's really important for shaving the back of the head.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah, it's got this like unique curve to it. A good barber, they understand how to follow that curve to create a smooth shave.
So it's not just about buzzing everything off with the same guard.
Nope. You gotta take those curves into account. Otherwise, you could end up with an uneven shave or even irritate the skin.
Man, I'm starting to think I should be tipping my barber extra for navigating all these bony obstacles.
I think we all take for granted the skill that goes into a good haircut. It's not just about trends, it's about anatomy, you know, making sure it's safe and looks good.
All right, occipital bone, got it. What about the sides of the head? Any bones there that are important for barbers to know?
Definitely. There's the temporal bone. It sits right around your ears. Pretty delicate area because it houses like all the structures of your inner and middle ear.
So if you're not careful, a slip of the scissors there could be a big problem.
Yeah, you don't want to mess around there. Barbers got to be extra cautious, know exactly where that bone is and how to work around it.
This is making me want to like run my hands over my skull and map out all these bones.
I totally encourage it. Get to know your own body. It's amazing what you can learn.
So we've covered a lot of the major bones, the ones that really impact haircuts and beards. But what are the smaller ones? Like, do the bones in your nose even matter?
You know, it's funny you should mention that
Yeah.
the source we're looking at, it actually does talk about the nasal bones. You know, the ones that form the bridge of your nose.
Whoa, for real.
Yeah.
So are barbers going to start, like, shaping our noses with their clippers now?
Ha, no, not quite. But it just shows that even those smaller bones, they contribute to a barber's understanding of the whole face.
So it's all connected.
Yeah.
Like, even if they're not working on a specific area, knowing how it all fits together makes them a better barber.
Exactly. It's like having a blueprint for the entire building, not just one room.
This is wild. I'm noticing the source keeps coming back to the zygomatic bone, you know, the cheekbone.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Why is that one so important?
Well, think about it. The cheekbone, it's a really prominent feature, right? It plays a huge role in the overall balance of the face.
So a barber who understands that bone can really tailor the haircut to flatter those features.
Exactly. It helps them decide how to frame the face, where to add volume, where to take it away. It's one of the most important landmarks for a barber.
This whole conversation is making me realize that barbering is so much more than just cutting hair.
It really is. It's like an art form.
Yeah, you got to understand the anatomy, the aesthetics, the individual client. It's about seeing the potential in each face.
I love that. And I think the source we're looking at really gets that. It's not just a technical manual, it's a celebration of the craft.
Okay, last question about specific bones. Then I want to talk about what this means for the average person sitting in the barber's chair.
Sounds good.
The source mentioned the mastoid process again, that sensitive spot behind the ear. Why is that area so delicate?
Well, it's really close to the surface of the skin, and there are these air cells in there that are actually connected to the middle ear.
So a nick there could cause an ear infection.
It could, yeah. That's why barbers gotta be super careful when they're shaving around there.
Wow, it's really amazing how much knowledge goes into a haircut. I'm starting to feel like I should be way more grateful for my barber.
We all should. It's a serious skill. They're like sculptors shaping and molding the hair.
Okay, so we've covered the skull anatomy pretty thoroughly, but now I'm curious, what does all this mean for the average person? Like, do I need to memorize all the bones in my head before I go get a haircut?
Haha, no, I don't think you need to go that far. But having a basic understanding of how your skull shape can impact your haircut, it can really help you make better choices.
Okay, so like, I don't need to be an expert, but it's good to be aware.
Yeah, just like you don't need to know how to rebuild an engine to know what kind of car you want to drive.
Perfect analogy. So what are some key things people should keep in mind about their own skull shape when choosing a haircut? Like, what are the main takeaways here?
Well, first of all, pay attention to your face shape. Is it round, square, oval, something else? Once you have a sense of that, you can start to think about what hairstyles might work best.
Right, right.
Like if you have a round face, you might want to avoid styles that add a lot of volume on the sides.
Because that would make your face look even rounder.
Exactly. You might want something with more height on top to elongate the face.
So it's all about balance and proportion.
Exactly. Same goes for beards. Strong jawline, maybe you want to emphasize that. Weaker chin. Maybe go for a beard that adds length and definition.
Man, this is really making me rethink everything. I feel like I've been doing it all wrong.
It's never too late to learn.
Yeah, I'm officially a skull anatomy convert, but before we get too carried away, I think we need to give our listener a minute to digest all this.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll be back in a flash to wrap up this deep dive. Don't go anywhere.
Oh.
Okay, we're back. I'm ready to take this skull knowledge to the barbershop. Like, I'm armed and dangerous now.
Love the enthusiasm.
So let's say I'm in the barber's chair, feeling all confident about my skull anatomy. What are some questions I should ask to, like, make sure my barber's on the same page?
First off, don't be afraid to talk about your skull shape. Be like, hey, I have a pretty big forehead. What styles would work with that?
Just be upfront about it.
Exactly. A good barber, they'll appreciate that. It shows you're really thinking about it. You want to collaborate.
What about, like, specific bones? Should I be pointing at my parietal bone and saying, hey, make sure you find the highest point for a perfect fade?
Haha, you could, but I think it's more about communicating the overall look you want. Like instead of focusing on the bone itself, say, I'm looking for a fade that really blends well and shows off the shape of my head, something like that.
So, big picture, not the technical details.
Exactly. And pictures. Bring pictures of styles you like. It gives them a visual, helps them see your vision.
You know, this whole thing makes me realize that finding a good barber is like a real treasure hunt.
Yeah.
It's more than just skills. It's art and science combined.
For sure. They can totally transform you, make you feel amazing. A good barber is priceless.
And now, thanks to this deep dive, we know what to look for. Someone who gets the skull, who really sees you.
It changes everything. And it's not just about finding a good barber. It's about being a better client, too. Knowing your face, working together.
It's a team effort, like a partnership.
The more you learn about your skull, the more you'll appreciate what they do.
This deep dive has been incredible. I've learned so much.
Me too. It's all about embracing what makes you, you, finding a style that works.
All right, everyone. That's a wrap on our skull anatomy adventure. We hope you've enjoyed it, learned some stuff along the way. Until next time, keep those brains buzzing and those haircuts looking sharp.